You know, transitioning and dying is such a scary thing. It's full of unknowns, and to be alone while you're transitioning, I think would be incredibly challenging if you didn't have somebody there to support you, to comfort you, to kind of help you as you transition, as you prepare to die.
I've seen families come together in extreme situations, come together and cooperate, and just see it, just a beautiful experience of a healing, not just physically, but the healing of the families many times, and it's an awe-inspiring thing to see.
I'm a doula, and I sit with people that are actively dying. A Vigil volunteer is a person who goes to the bedside of someone actively dying.
It's all volunteer-based. So whether it's a Vigil program or it's a doula program, they're all volunteers. They all give of their own time and give of their own hours.
Our program is called Vigils, and it's the same program as the doulas, or the 11th Hour, I think, is another program in this area, calls them. And they basically are there for people who are actively dying, to provide that compassionate support, that presence to help people as they transition.
The Vigil volunteer program is an amazing program, and I've seen it in action firsthand, and oftentimes I see it at one of the hospitals, and I will go into a room and I will see a Vigil volunteer at the bedside with a patient. Sometimes the family is there, sometimes the family is not there, but the way in which they provide care just by being present is so amazing to me, and I think it really takes a great deal of strength to be able to do that.
The fact that we have volunteers who are knowledgeable, well-trained, enables that process to go even further.
So the doula volunteers are great because twofold. One, sometimes family members can't physically be here with the patient. And sometimes families don't want to be here. They want to not watch this process. They're not even sure what's coming. And if we, talk to them, which we all do, they just don't, they might not have a comfort level with it. And sometimes they're there when the families are there because they're a source of comfort for the family as well. I mean, so it gives them comfort knowing that they don't, whatever their situation is, maybe they're feeling hurried because, I can't get out of work or whatever, knowing that the person's not alone is very comforting to them.
Yeah, being with family, you're mostly focusing on the family because they are there because their loved one is dying. So you try to keep a balance in your focus on the patient and on the family.
Oh gosh, Helen did a multitude of things which really relieved me of not only the physical stress of taking care of my sister, but some of the emotional and spiritual that I was able to leave the room to do some laundry or go get Kathy's medications or just be by myself for a few minutes.
There came a time when my mother needed the hospice situation, so the doulas come in and they are hands-on. They're sitting right there and very attuned to it's not even a job for them, it's like a calling. I mean, it takes a special, unique person to do this, that level of compassion. I've never seen it before in anyone. And it was so nice to surrender the control of, I was thinking, okay, now somebody else is running this. And I knew they were very competent, they knew what they were doing, they were concerned about her comfort. And I could just relax for a little while and let them take over. I was still watching, so I could go home and maybe have dinner or, take a nap or go to the gym and work out or walk the dog or do those things I used to do in my other life before my mother became ill.
And the family definitely needs you, and so generally I say, is there anything I can do to help you, etc.
And I think the doula's understanding of not only the preciousness and the sacredness of life, but also the end of life.
It touches in you something very real, and you realize that it could be you, it could be your loved one.
I won't identify her name, but a young woman relatively in her 50s that had witnessed her brother being murdered, her other brother who did the murdering died. The closest person in her life was her mother, who died in her young 20s. She had spent a life of trying to find herself, I think, often in drugs and alcohol, and now in her 50s she's dying of liver cancer. She was a pretty sad person when she came to us, didn't want to talk, and in one of my conversations with her, this is a common question I might ask, is what was a peak experience in your life that really sort of made you smile? And she talked about riding a horse with her mother. And one of the roles of social worker is, again, to resolve issues. And I said to her, what would it be like to ride a horse again? And for the first time she smiled. And we made that happen with a connection with therapeutic riding. And she spent an hour on a horse called Apollo in Crownsville. She didn't stop talking all the way back to our Tate House where she was. And in the months that she had with us, I think it played a part because she healed all the relationship with her families, with her friends. And when she died, she was loved and she was cared for not only by us, but her family. And the church was filled at her memorial.
I was asked to visit a patient, be with the patient while the wife took her sons to soccer practice. Had a son 16 and one 10. And I called the wife to set up a time to come. And during our talk over the phone, she told me the age of her sons, and I said I experienced a similar situation. My dad died when I was 16. I had a 10-year-old brother. And the next day I got a call from the volunteer department saying that the patient had died. And I said that I thought it would probably be good if I called the wife to see if, or to let her know that I got the information and express my sympathy and let her know that I wouldn't be showing up at an inopportune time. And when I called, she said, no, please still come. I'd like you to talk to my sons. As it turned out, I visited them over a period of 2 months, about every week, once a week. And interestingly, they said that they were more interested in what I was saying, answering their questions, than their school counselors or uncles, because I had experienced a similar thing. And the mother had called me sometime later, or a couple weeks later, and said that when the son was reading at the father's funeral, he mentioned that he was really helped to get through this by talking to some gentleman from hospice. So that made me feel good.
When you go in and there's no family, the most important thing you can do is be present. Be present to that patient and let that patient know someone is there caring.
So act naturally, is that correct?
Oh, acting, yeah. You're doing a great job.
That's as natural as I get, darling. Yeah, uh-huh.
How did he propose to you?
How'd you like to get married?
Really?
Sounds good to me. After 40 years, I said, sure.
About time, right?
That's about it, you know? Well, you know, when you wait that long, the symbol is right to the, you know, I mean, it's
You want
right.
to get right to the nitty-gritty, huh?
Yeah, it's just, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was it.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's beautiful.
It's not sentimental, but it's beautiful.
It is. It really is.
Well, I think hospice is just absolutely mandatory in this day and age. And I don't think people actually understand the total concept of hospice. I think they think, oh, this is it. I'm gonna die, you know, in 15 minutes or, you know, 3 days or something. They just don't have the idea and the concept.
There's no reason for anybody to be uncomfortable or be in pain. And that's one thing hospice does, is they recognize that, and they take very good care and make sure they stay ahead of the pain, so, or ahead of the process, so you're not trying to catch up. Mm-hmm. So it's it's a wonderful program.
In fact, the medical evidence supports the fact that people who choose hospice actually live longer than those that don't. There are several landmark studies that are done on cancer patients that if they choose hospice earlier in their course of cancer care, they actually live longer compared to those that don't.
What the patients have taught is they want us to continue to live. They want to die with the confidence that those that they're leaving behind will be okay.
I think the beauty of this program is that it gives so much, and our volunteers also gain so much from it.
It's just, it's a very nice feeling to feel like you're really doing something for others.
I would have to say the one thing that I have learned from every single one of the patients that I have had the pleasure of providing service for is that every single moment of my life matters.
Our work is not easy, but it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done, and I say that very seriously. I feel like all of the life experiences that I've had to date have led me to do this important work.
I think there's a worry that the patient wants to know that their loved ones are going to be okay. And whatever you believe about end of life, sometimes they're holding on till they know someone is there, or they get the assurance, we're going to be okay.